Fine Gael has now been in power for 12 years. For 7 of those years joined at the hip by Fianna Fáil. On your watch, we have gone from housing crisis to housing emergency to housing disaster. The policies you have implemented together over the course of the last decade have brought us to where we are today. You followed an agenda that explicitly transferred to the private market the responsibilities of government to deliver housing for our people. And to understand the emergency of today, we need to look at the disastrous decisions that you have made in the past. On entering government 12 years ago, Fine Gael seized on the austerity imposed by Fianna Fáil and continued to slash capital housing budgets to the point where government essentially stopped building public housing. And even with an upturn in the economy and a very significant recovery in public finances, government refused to provide the necessary investment to tackle the housing crisis and to build the homes that our people need. From 2016, Fianna Fáil has backed every Fine Gael housing budget to the hilt. Indeed, in 2019, Micheál Martin stood in the Dáil and claimed that he had secured a housing budget to deliver thousands of affordable homes by 2021. Well, how did that go? How many of those homes were delivered? Answer, not one. This crystallised the charade presided over by Housing Minister after Housing Minister. Phil Hogan, Alan Kelly, Simon Coveney, Owen Murphy and Dara O'Brien. A list of housing ministers who have refused to change direction even when the writing was on the wall. In the midst of an ever-mounting catastrophe, all failed miserably. As you slashed government investment in housing, you turbocharged housing assistance payments. Instead of building housing, you poured billions into the private rental market. And by the way, it was always your responsibility, not the responsibility of small landlords, to sort out housing. And now, as the private rental market shrinks, many families are left with nowhere to go. The decision by Michael Noonan in 2013 to roll out the red carpet for cuckoo and vulture funds will go down as a disaster in our housing market, a disaster for which ordinary people have paid a very heavy price. The housing emergency didn't fall from the sky. For the last 3 years, joined by the Green Party, you've continued to sing from that same ruinous hymn sheet. This government came to office claiming that it would be the government to fix housing, and yet you have clung to the same failed policies, and the calamitous results are plain to see. Indeed, they define life in Ireland for a generation. Sky-high house prices, record extortionate rent, and a level of homelessness that we could only have imagined in our worst nightmares. Your record in government is low targets set, low targets missed. Deadlines set, deadlines missed. Figures announced, figures massaged. A government big on promises, but very short on delivery. And the result of your failures is heartbreaking. Lives on hold for a generation, aspirations and dreams surrendered, a claustrophobic, stifling atmosphere where people now feel that no matter how hard they work, no matter when they do everything right, they still won't be able to build a decent future. So many have packed their bags for a life abroad because they simply can't make it work at home anymore. So how any member of government could look anybody in the eye and say that your housing policies are working is beyond me. This government doesn't deserve the confidence of the Dáil because it doesn't serve the needs of the people. The message you have sent to a generation that has lost so many years to the crisis that you have created is this: to wait. Nero fiddles while Rome burns. The Land Development Agency report published yesterday asks people to wait again for the possibility that the government might build, but not now, at some point in the future. What planet are you living on? And on it goes. The delusion of government on full and glorious display again here today. Leo Varadkar returned to the Taoiseach's office in December last. He said housing would be his priority. Well, his first major housing decision is to put 3,000 working families, single people and pensioners at risk of losing their homes by lifting the eviction ban in 3 days' time. That's his approach. This affects every renter, faced now with the stress, the worry, the insecurity of getting that call from your landlord with devastating news that will turn your life upside down, literally. The Taoiseach claims a distinction between receiving an eviction notice and being evicted. He does this with zero regard for the pressure that an eviction notice places on families, zero regard for the stress, anxiety, or the sense of hopelessness that that creates. We've all heard stories of children asking where they'll have their birthday party if they must leave, asking if their friends will be able to find them, asking if they'll still be able to go to school. How do you tell a child that their home isn't their home anymore? And how can anyone have confidence in a government that does this, eyes wide open to so many families? How can anybody have confidence in a Taoiseach that cannot answer the straightforward question, where are people meant to go? 750,000 people now live in the private rental sector. Tens of thousands are trapped in a nightmare of extortionate rent and crushing insecurity. In any other generation, they would now own their own homes. Instead, they are trapped paying rip-off rent month in, month out, with no hope of saving for a deposit. Their chances of home ownership is razor thin and narrows every day because of the repeated failures of this government to tackle supply and affordability. Homelessness used to be associated with people down on their luck. But now, thanks to Gael and Fianna Fáil, it is a very real fear and a real experience for some working families. We've almost 12,000 people in emergency accommodation, including 3,000 children. The sharpest edge of this scandal is seen in those sleeping in doorways and in the tents that dot the banks of the canals. These are heartbreaking sights that will become more frequent because of the failure to resource emergency accommodation. But we all know that the true level of homelessness is disguised by the number of those who are couch surfing, those living with friends on a temporary basis, and those living in overcrowded accommodation. And all of this, all of it, is the result of government policy. And now the housing crisis presents a real threat to our social cohesion. Not alone is the housing emergency robbing people of a secure home, it's now impacting on staffing in education, in healthcare, and on our ability to attract jobs and investment. And the Minister will hear this firsthand from leaders of industry today at a conference. This spillover threatens our progress, our prosperity and our success. So we need change like never before. We need leadership that will bring an all-of-government approach to tackling this crisis, a government that will bring energy, pace and ambition, a government that will bring innovation and change. Because you see, it doesn't have to be this way. Housing can be fixed. We can give this generation the chance at life they deserve. But only a change of government will solve this housing crisis, and we in Sinn Féin wish to lead that government. From day one, we would get down to the work of building tens of thousands of homes on public land. We would build affordable homes. We would get rent under control. We would cut the bureaucracy, the red tape and the inertia to bring thousands of vacant homes back into use and to harness new technologies for housing construction. We would work with all stakeholders across our society to deliver the biggest public housing programme in the history of the state. A Sinn Féin government would roll up our sleeves and we would get the job done. Hop glán an rialtas seo hithéocht, ba ceart dóibh imacht. In anam day, tá ar níní I mar ar Gael ar son tithe tá slán agus ar phrais réasúnta. Tá siad I mar a Gaeile ar son na hafrathe réid seo rialtas Sinn Féin amháin an gar géircéim tithéochta. Ireland is a great country. Our people are brimming with talent and energy, and they deserve better than the stranglehold of this perpetual housing crisis. They deserve better than Gael and Fianna Fáil, because you have had your chance and you have failed. You're out of ideas, you're out of touch, you're out of time. And now is the time for others to be given the chance to show what we can do. It's time for change. The longer that Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael remain in government, the more damage they will do. We need a general election, and the sooner the better.